In every anime or comic book universe, there always exists a group of the most powerful or important individuals. Naruto had the 5 Kages, Bleach has the Shinigami Captains, and Star Rail has Eons and Emanators. In Zenless Zone Zero, we have the Void Hunters, a group of individuals who are not only some of the most powerful people in the setting, but also are individually responsible for the existence and survival of New Eridu. They are the Hunters of Disaster and the Defenders of the City. But who exactly are the members of this group, and what have they done to achieve this status? That's what we'll be discussing in this video, the 8 Void Hunters of Zenless Zone Zero. Before we discuss that in more detail, if you want to see more Zenless Zone Zero lore content, do consider subscribing to the channel. While the Void Hunters are high profile and people of importance, truth be told, we know very little about them. Even within the in-game universe, detailed information about the Void Hunters have been kept rather secret, especially from the public. In the Where the Miracle Began trailer, an unnamed individual had to use the combined efforts of 4 unique AIs to even access the information, as it was buried so deep within the Internet database. It's obvious that there are things about these characters, the Hollows, and even the formation of New Eridu that have not yet been fully revealed. Because of that, some of what I'll discuss here does include a little bit of theory crafting on my end, but I'll make sure to try and limit the content of this video to what we currently know. But let's not get ahead of ourselves with theories and whatnot. Plenty of time for that later. Let's first talk about how one becomes a Void Hunter. The title of Void Hunter has existed for several eras and was created all the way back during the early formation of New Eridu. When the apocalypse first hit, humanity was in utter chaos. Many were displaced, the monsters born from the Hollow were threatening humanity, and survival in general was difficult. Even if there were pockets of humanity around, public infrastructure was failing, and with the Hollows consuming more and more land, it was only a matter of time before humanity would go extinct. Those who would form the city of New Eridu fought against the apocalypse and managed to adapt to their changed environment. This was in part due to the individuals who would become the Void Hunters. Each Void Hunter has contributed something significant to the survival of New Eridu. We'll talk about them in a bit more detail later in the video, but in general, their contributions included the eradication of extremely dangerous ethereals, suppression of large hollows, and even the creation of new technologies that aided the public. Suffice to say, each Void Hunter contributed greatly to humanity and its survival. To commend the deeds of these heroes and their contributions, the Mayor of New Eridu conceived of a new title of honor, Void Hunter. As far as we know, this title can only be conferred by the Mayor themselves. It's both a title and a position. Now in the trailer, we are introduced to a total of 7 Void Hunters other than Miyabi, though I'm not sure if they appeared based on when they received their title, so just assume that as I go through this list, it isn't indicative of their position or anything. Let's start off with Miyabi's ancestor, and the first Void Hunter to be mentioned, the Swordmaster. She was said to have taken down the Exaltis Overseer, though it's unclear whether this is an ethereal, a cult leader, or some infamous mercenary. In addition, during her introduction, several large ethereals can be seen in the background, and much like Miyabi, she likely was involved with defending New Eridu from dangerous ethereals. Given her title and her descendant Miyabi's ability with the sword, she likely wields the sword as a weapon as well. Perhaps the one Miyabi is currently using once belonged to the Swordmaster. Unfortunately though, that's about as much as we know about her, so we'll move on to the next hunter we are introduced to, Lady Sunbringer. Much like the Swordmaster, we don't know Sunbringer's real name, though she was mentioned to be the former CEO of the Marcel Group. She was also the individual responsible for the eradication of the Hive Lord that resided in the Hollow in the Sky, which I'm guessing caused the Hollow to collapse or disappear entirely. This might be where her moniker of Sunbringer comes from. Perhaps the floating Hollow literally blocked out the sun, and through her efforts, she brought back the light of the sun to New Eridu. These achievements alone would be sufficient to ensure her place among the Void Hunters, but I feel her last contribution is likely the most significant. You see, Lady Sunbringer is credited as the creator of the Bang Boos. Originally, the Bang Boos were actually used for evacuation purposes, to assist and coordinate citizens out of an area where a hollow has appeared. Since then, Bang Boos have become quite essential to how New Eridu functions, as they are involved with working odd jobs like construction, to supporting the proxies, hollow raiders, and investigators. If she indeed created the bamboos, what if she can forcibly take control of them and have all of them follow her commands? Can she instruct all of them to suddenly stop working, or worse yet, turn hostile? With how ingrained the bamboos are to society, she likely wields an incredibly high amount of power and influence, and why she was likely made a Void Hunter. Next on the list is the ace and leader of the Investigation Guild, Joyous. He was said to have traveled and navigated through the Divine Maze and is responsible for developing the standard protocols for holo exploration. It's very likely that Joyous not only came up with the rules that pretty much everyone today follows, but perhaps even identified the typical phenomena that occur within them, such as spatial fissures. I also have this suspicion that Joyous also likely came up with the Carrot, the map that allowed for safe traversal into holos, though there isn't any evidence of that currently. Because of his contributions, Joyous is somewhat regarded as the precursor to both investigators and proxies alike. Without him, expeditions into the holos would likely be an extremely dangerous endeavor, and the city of Eridu that relies on ether crystals that are mined in these holos would likely struggle to function. The next three members are spoken in the trailer in the same breath, so I'll do the same here. Colonel Vike, Lieutenant Colonel Dan, and an unnamed leader of a mercenary group single-handedly pushed back the Dark Wall 37 kilometers back. Truthfully, I have no idea what this even references. Whether the Dark Wall was an encroaching holo or some other thing entirely, we just don't know, so I can't really speak or theorize much about who these three are, let alone their contributions. The fact they did this just by themselves, however, might say something about their ability and combat prowess, but that's about all we can glean from this. That said, given one of these three is actually from a mercenary group, it's a good example of how the Void Hunters aren't necessarily just heroes, but rather individuals who have benefited New Eridu in one way or another. Next up, we have the long-lost love child of Duke Inferno and Acheron, Professor Arche. I mean, he has a head of purple-colored flame, so I'm starting to think Acheron didn't actually kill Inferno, but did something else entirely. Jokes aside, Professor Arche is the founder of the Helios Academy, an academy that we don't really know the purpose for. However, it's likely they conducted research or studied the holos in some capacity, given Arche is responsible for discovering the common characteristics of holos. It's also mentioned that the patent for the Holo Deep Dive system actually belongs to the Helios Research Institute, and some missions later in the game hints at their involvement in AI development as well. Their contribution was likely sizable enough to warrant the professor's inclusion as a Void Hunter. At the time the information on these Void Hunters were sealed, Professor Arche had mounted an expedition into Holo Zero to figure out the truth behind these supernatural phenomena. He has yet to return from the holo and has been missing for an entire era, but is likely very much still alive given the nature of time dilation within the holo. Last and certainly not the least is the final Void Hunter, one we have actually seen and met in-game, Hoshimi Miyabi. She is an agent for Section 6 of the Holo Affairs and Neutralization Department or HAND, and was seen briefly hunting down an ethereal within Holo Zero. Miyabi is currently the youngest member of the Void Hunters and is a descendant of one of the other Void Hunters, the Swordmaster. While her name wasn't revealed to us, the Void Hunter referred to as the Swordmaster was actually a third generation head of the Hoshimi family. As of right now, we don't really know what Miyabi did or contributed to earn her place among the other Void Hunters, but if we use the others as a reference point, she likely did something of comparable achievement. As of right now, these are the only members of the Void Hunters we know of. Outside of Miyabi, it's unclear if most of these Void Hunters are even still alive, since we don't know how long ago they received these titles, and it could have happened way back at the formation of the city itself. What I find rather odd is that given their significant contributions to the city of New Eridu, information on them seems to be highly classified, and they are mentioned only in the New Eridu founding report. It's weird that the details on these individuals would be hidden away. What's the point of making up a position like the Void Hunters to only keep the details hidden? I mean, most civilians are aware of them as even Miyabi is quite well known, but it seems their details are not shared publicly. It makes me believe that something about these individuals, or perhaps the founding of New Eridu itself, is not all it seems. Perhaps some greater conspiracy is at play here, a secret hidden from the public. I also have this weird feeling that what we know about the Void Hunters right now has been embellished to some degree to make them seem like heroes or role models. I suspect that the government might be using the achievements of these characters as a measure of control to ensure the public doesn't panic. They might be criminals for all we know, but painted in the light of saviors. For now though, the common denominator amongst these hunters are that they are individually very powerful and they have contributed greatly to New Eridu's survival. Each was capable of taking down named ethereals and not only circumventing treacherous hollows but surviving them, as well as contributing greatly to humanity. I'll refrain from speculating further as we really don't know much about them at the moment, but once Miyabi's character is released, we will likely learn a bit more about this group. Do you think that there is some conspiracy hidden about the truth of the Void Hunters, or are they just naturally enigmatic characters? Let me know what you think in the comments. Also, if they become playable, who would you want to summon for? Outside of Miyabi, I'm personally kind of interested in Joyous and Sunbringer. If you found the video entertaining, do consider liking and subscribing to the channel. Thanks so much for watching, and as usual, have a nice day.